This is the TriCaster 460, which is capable of taking SDI video. It's a digital video signal in. Also capable of taking component video in. I won't get into the details right now. You'll be using an SDI feed, but you first need to adapt your cameras from a mini HDMI to an SDI BNC, which looks like this, in order to feed your cameras into this system. So that's the first thing you must get, is probably 2 of those. So to turn the system on here, it's just open the door. It sticks a bit right now. There's 2 buttons. Reset obviously reboots it. Black button will turn the system on. Just push it, let go, blue light comes on. Let it boot up. Okay, launch TriCaster. You either can do it yourself, or sometimes it'll do a countdown by itself and just automatically launch into the TriCaster system. The system runs on Windows, but you rarely need to go into Windows other than if you're doing some kind of a file management thing or looking for something. Otherwise, everything's pretty much done in the TriCaster system itself. File management, playback, record, all of it. Now it's booting up. There's your TriCaster screen. Now you get what's called the application ring here. Shut down, shuts down. Help, help. Add-ons we won't get into right now, but that's where you want to go to Live Text Editor as well as Virtual Set Editor. You're going to add-ons. I won't do that now. We can either open an existing session, which is over here on the right. These sessions are like project files. These sessions contain all of the file settings for that particular project. So it holds all the camera settings, it holds all the video settings, it holds everything for you. So I'm going to create a new one rather than open one of these. You can see right here it says 1080 60i. You don't want to use interlaced video, you want to use progressive, which is the P. None of these flavors are ones that we want to use. 24 is more of a film rate. What we want to use is, I'll show you as I open this, open a new session, give it a name. I'm going to call it Test Session. I'm going to spell it correctly. And then, template, we're not using a template, we're going to actually make a new one. This is where the media is stored, is on the D drive. It's NTSC, which is the North American Television Standard. And then the next thing is, do we want to make a 1080 or a 720p? 30 frames a second is what we want to work in, whether it's 720, which is a smaller frame, lower resolution, less detail, less quality. 1080, more pixels, more resolution, bigger frame, better quality. This monitor may not be able to handle this, but I'm going to try. Typically, I'd want to set it up as a 1080 30p session. So I'm going to click on it, Start Session. Now I've creating a brand new session. Manage is where you'll go if you want to bring files or titles or videos or music into the system. You need to import them. I'm not going to do that right now. And at the end, when you want to actually take a video and take it out of this system and put it on a computer to play it somewhere else, you need to export it. So import, export are under the Manage tab. Live is where we're going to go. Graphics is where you actually open it up. I'll just open it quickly. I'm just going to start it. It's just a titler is what it is. You've got a titler here. I think you may also have the software that's external. It's called Live Text, which there it is here. It's either built into this system, so you can build all your titles here, or the nice thing with this system is you can build your text titles outside of this system on a dedicated computer. Pretty basic titler, to be honest, but it does the job. So I'm going to go File, Exit. And that's called Live Text. I hope to go Exit. There we go. I'm going to go back to this small application ring here. Manage is where you import, export. Graphics is Live Text. Live is now where we go into the interface of the TriCaster system, where we can now load clips, switch between cameras, switch between video clips to play our video clips, add titles, cut in the green screen, whatever it is we want to do. So we got to go to Live now to actually go into the interface of the TriCaster. Okay, Now, I'm not going to get into all the details because there's just too many, but what I will say is we are missing information along the top here because this TV monitor is a 720p and it's not showing us the top and the bottom of the frame. That is a problem. So that's why this needs to be a 1080p monitor. This one and the 32-inch you're going to buy as well. But I can still show you the majority of the layout of this system. If you look top left, these are source windows, they're called. This is where you actually have your camera sources, camera 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have a net 1, net 2. Net 1 and 2 are special inputs that actually connect to a computer anywhere in the school that's on the same computer network. We don't really use it, but you could. Say you had computers loaded up with some YouTube videos you wanted to play off of them to maybe create another role for somebody. You could put them on a separate computer, connect, and run them off of that. So it does work, but generally we always load the clips into the system. So again, these are source. Now what I can't see right now is my workspaces. Now here it is up here. It says workspace up here. I want to change my workspace because I'm not seeing enough stuff. So let me try all. I'm still not seeing everything. I think this system probably needs to be updated. I'm not seeing some of my inputs right now, such as, sorry, here they are here. We have cameras, nets, and then we have DDR1, which is down here. You can't quite see the tab over here on the left, unfortunately. DDR1's a media player. It plays videos. It plays music, it plays photos, it plays titles, it plays all media, including videos. The DDR, it's called Digital Disc Recorder, is the only media players that will play video. So if you load a video, it must be loaded in these particular media players. And this system is great because it has a second media player, which if I click on the tab over in the bottom right, whatever you click on these tabs on either side is what shows up here in these windows. So there's the DDR. These would be clips that are loaded on DDR1, and these are clips that are loaded on DDR2. Right now they're both blank because we've got nothing loaded. And the last thing here that we see, but there are opportunities to see other things, is called a graphics channel. And you can see the graphics channel is this tab here. When you update this system, you'll find that it changes your layout here and gives you 2 graphics channels, one of which you won't be able to use right away unless you do what's called a remap this system. You don't really need to do that. Whether or not you need to update, not upgrade, but update the system will depend on its how solid it is, if it's reliable. If it hangs up and stuff, then you want to update it. Okay, so those are these source monitors. These are the things you can cut to. The other important monitors, I don't have any content right now, so it's a little difficult, and I'll load some in a minute, I hope, is you've got 2 other monitors on the right. They're called Preview, green, Program, red. Whatever you see on program is what everyone else is seeing on the stream, on the record, on the monitors you might be feeding in the cafeteria, whatever. Whatever's red is live. Whatever's green, I like to refer to it as, it's called preview. I like to say that's what's next. If I were to execute a transition, which we'll get into, whatever's on preview would transition and swap places with the program source. So whatever's here would switch and suddenly become live, and what was live will suddenly become a source in preview, which would be what's next. And that's how I always refer to it, so students can understand that concept. What's next? Okay, let's see if we can load some media now, since we have nothing. We're just going to stop only Mac. That's it. Okay, so here's camera 1. We have a camera, one camera plugged into camera 1 on the SDI green BNC connector. I can go into this. Anytime you see a gear, it means it's for settings. Anytime you see a plus, which I can't see one down here, but if I was to see a plus anywhere, there's a plus way over here on the right. Plus means you've got other options for something. Gears mean settings, pluses mean you can add some other kind of thing, effect or whatever. So let's go into the settings of this camera. Now you can see it's going off the screen, but let's go to, is it set to 1080?
720.
720? Okay, I'm going to go to 720.
30p.
Let's try that. There it is. It pops in. If you don't see your camera, first check your cables. Second thing to do is you've got to check the input of the camera here. Under input settings, you can't quite, there it is there. Input settings. you got to make sure that the input setting matches the output of the camera. That's important. And otherwise you won't see it. And now you can see it. Marcy, would you give us just some kind of a shot of the room maybe, not just the green?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so there's camera 1 now. We've repositioned the camera in the studio so it's not just shooting the green wall. You can see some boxes and things there, just so you can see that there's a picture. Now, how do we get that camera to go live? Well, these buttons here, this red button here, corresponds to the program window. Whatever I select on the program bus, it's called a bus, think of it as a school bus. Whatever I select here is what will be automatically, instantly cut to program. So if I cut with my mouse, there it is, top right. It's on program. If I don't want it to be live, let's say I'm on another source, let's say I'm just on a black screen, but I want it to be next. I put it in my preview, and then when I run what's called a transition over here, you can see that they switch places. So program's what's live, preview is what will be next. Whatever you want to go to or transition to, you must select it down here first if you're using a transition. If I want to simply cut to it, I can go to black and just cut. Black, cut. That's called a cut. The most common transition in film and television. The next most common is called a dissolve, and that's where you get the overlapping of images. Okay? Or I can take it down here too. But look, this is a little clunky here using a mouse here because it's easy to misclick with a mouse. So if you look down here now on your panel down here, you can see that this panel, these 2 buses, it says program red. Preview, if I select something, right, select buffer, there's nothing in the buffer, green. Okay, so instead of switching with the mouse, you're going to switch on this control surface. Camera 1's live. If I want to cut to black, cut to black. If I want to now dissolve to camera 1, I must pre-select it so it's next. And then go down here to my transition, the auto. If I take it, it cuts to it. So there's a cut. If I auto transition, it will do the overlapping dissolve. And we can affect, I can select, let me pick another, just so you get an idea of what's happening. If I select in this panel here, another transition style, and there's all kinds of them in this system, but these are the ones that are defaulted. If I hit auto now, I get a fancy transition. Okay, so auto will give you a transition, take will give you cuts. And really all it is switching sources between what's on program to what's on preview. So to make this a little easier, let's put something in the graphic channel. Excuse me. How do I do that? Well, select the graphic tab here, not DDR. Do you have videos loaded here? Let's try a video. DDR1, you can't see the tab, but it says DDR1 just like this says DDR2. There's a big plus button down here. You can see a little bit of it here. I'm going to click the plus button, which means add something. I'm going to add one of these videos. I don't know what they are, but you can navigate through the videos and titles, photos, video clips, or you can go through browse and you can find where you maybe have stored things. You made your own folders. That's part of the import process, which I didn't go over. But anyway, so this looks like it's a video. So I'm gonna bring that one in. I'm gonna hold Control. I'm gonna pick that one. I'm gonna hold Control again. I'm gonna pick that one. So I'm gonna bring these 3 clips into DDR1 so I can use them in my show. And you see they appear. If these are grayed out, if any media is ever grayed out in a player, it means it can't be played because it's not compatible in some way. So for example, if I go to graphics and I try to bring videos into there, let me find out where I had those. See, it won't even give me the video option because it won't play videos. But let's say that I think I'm smarter than the system and I go to Media, D drive, which is where all the stuff is stored, and I go into the media, I go into clips, that's another, follow the breadcrumb, so D, media clips, and now I'm going to go into a session that you have here that says imported videos. or recorded. Save streams. Capture. Capture means it's recorded, but it won't let me do it because it knows it can't play a video. So why don't I just take something that it knows it can play? Why don't I take a graphic that TriCaster was nice enough to load? So I'm going to go under Stills because it's a graphic, or I can go under Titles. And I'll stay under Stills for now, and I'm just going to double click this one. It adds a photo now into my graphics tab, this media player. So this is a media player. DDR1 has my video clips. So now you look up here, I've got a camera source, I've got a video source, which is in my DDR1 down here, and I've got a graphic source, which is that photo in the graphic tab. Okay, a little test for you right now if you're watching and paying attention. Right now, what is out on live right now on program? What's the source? 3, 2, 1. Source is, Ms. Deacon?
It's the camera.
The camera, and we can see it. And hey, look, red, and guess what? Corresponds to the red camera 1 button on the bus. Can you see that over there on the screen? So red, and hey, look, camera 1 also has a red bar under it. Tells me that that source is live. Okay, camera 1 is live. Okay, I want to now transition to graphics. So what am I, if I just hit auto right now, a transition, what's going to happen?
If you hit auto right now, nothing, because you don't have anything in preview.
Right, it's just going to transition between that and black, and it's going to use this wonky, let's use a funky transition. But I'm going to transition now, and we should see this switch with this. And it does. That's not what I want to do. So I'm going to cut now on this switcher, down here, I'm going to cut to camera 1, so it's live. I'm going to preset, it's called, preset on the preview bus, the graphics source. And there you can see, that's what's live, that's what's next. If I hit transition now with that funky transition style picked, it should switch between here and here. That's called a background transition. And that's an important term when you get to use this switcher in more detail. Background transition. This would be if it was Photoshop, it would be the bottom layer that's in behind everything else. Almost, unless you're doing green screen. Okay, so auto, we'll just switch them. Take, we'll just simply cut between them. And again, I can use another transition style. If I hate that transition style, look, I go to the little plus. Plus means there's more options. Click it, and look, I get all these transition options. I can say, oh, let's use the sheep. There's nothing better than a good sheep transition. So, let's hit auto now. Oh, I love that. Actually, if any of you ever use that transition, Miss Deacon is going to have to either fail you or have a conversation, one of the two.
I'll have a cow.
She'll have you. So just because those transitions exist doesn't mean you should use them. Use appropriate transitions for the appropriate purpose. Have some fun, but don't use things just because, randomly. Make decisions. Okay, so you can see auto does a transition. Okay? That's wacky. Okay, so we've loaded up in DDR1, 3 videos. We've loaded up in graphics channel, a photo. Let's go over to our, now it's called buffer, over here. And buffers are unique. The first 5 buffers can be animated little video clips up to 7 seconds apiece. And if you look, if I click in the buffer window, I can have up to 9 little animated clips in each of my first 5 buffers. The first 5 will play motion videos. The last 10, there's 15 total, will only play a still image. So I always use the first buffer. Let's go into the first source of the first buffer. Click the plus. And again, buffers now are going to do either stills, which are photos, or titles. Let's pick a title. So again, let's go to the title section. And I'm going to go to the new tech titles because they have a lot of pre-built ones. Same with the stills. So if you go to new tech, they've already pre-built a bunch of titles. Some are nicer than others. Some you can, if you have a little X like that, it means you can put a photo in it. My medication's waiting. Okay. So, here's the title here. This is called a lower third. It's in the bottom third of the screen. Let's just double click it. We've now added that title to buffer number 1. And if I click my gear again, I can now edit that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to double click it. I get the blue highlight. I'm going to call it Joe. And I'm going to spell things right. If you don't spell things right, I guarantee you'll lose work. You'll lose work in the profession, but you'll also lose marks in school. Because spelling things correctly is absolutely key. So Joe, that's the name of the person I'm going to cut to. And I'm going to overlay this title from this buffer channel over top of DDR1 video clip. Okay, once it's playing. So how do I do that? Well, let's start in black. And black on this is going to be there. I don't have black on this switcher, so I'm actually calling it up. You can also use a camera that doesn't exist, camera 2. It's just a black screen. My next source is going to be what? I want to play a video.
DDR is where the video is.
DDR. DDR1 is where I have the clip. I have nothing loaded in DDR2. So, yep, DDR1. So I'll go to this tab. Now, if you look, if I click across these DDRs, clips, the one that has the white rectangle around it is the one that is loaded and ready to play, and you'll see it up in the DDR window. If I click the next one, it loads ready to play. Next one, it loads ready to play. So you got to make sure you have your clips in order. You also have to make sure that you have the right one selected before you start your show. Otherwise, you might play your last clip first by accident.
Show and order.
Yeah, in order of the show.
Show how to order them.
Oh, yeah, if say this guy here, say this guy's Joe, and he's the last clip right now, just the way I added them, I can just click and drag, and I can move him to the front. And if he's last, I can click and drag him. So you can reorder things, and then you can, to get rid of them, you can remove them. Just right-click, remove. Okay? If you want to clone this, right-click, clone it, and for some reason you want to load it into DDR2, I can just drag it over there. So I've got the same clip in both DDRs. I don't need that right now, but I'll remove it. Right-click, remove. So let's go back to the buffer. There's the buffer with the title. There's my first clip is highlighted here. This is going to be Joe. And I'm going to start on black, and I'm going to cut to my DDR, which is Joe. I'm just going to cut. You're not going to hear sound. We're not really dealing with sound right now. So let's just cut to it. Now, there is a key, and you can't see it down here right now. There are two little buttons down here. One says single, and one says autoplay. Single means that after this clip has played, it'll automatically advance to your next clip and cue it up. Autoplay means when I take the video, just cut to it on this switcher, it'll automatically play. There are times you might want to disable one of those two things for some reason. Okay? And that works for other sources as well. You've got single and autoplay in graphics and other things too. So those are very important if they're not set right. Let's see what happens if I click on DDR1 with Joe video loaded. Now, autoplay is obviously not activated because it didn't play. So I'm going to kind of guess where it might be. I can't see it, so it's a bit of a struggle. Autoplay. My autoplay light here, I could actually select it here too. I just learned something. So I can see autoplay is now engaged and singles engaged. Okay, this mirrors that. So I know now if I go to black, select my first clip, which is Joe, have him queued up. Now if I hit DDR1, it should play Joe's clip, play it once, and then stop. That's actually not. That's Josephine. Okay, don't worry about audio right now. But you can see she's playing automatically as soon as I cut to it. And now what happens, this is the important part. You can see that when the video clip ends, a couple of things happen. Let's go back to Josephine here. Here's a little scrub bar here so you can play along the clip. Let's put her online. Okay? You can see the yellow. See how the little timeline here goes from blue? Yellow means, you can't see the counter down here unfortunately, but yellow means 10 seconds left in the clip. So if someone's helping to count back to the studio, 10. And then it plays for 5 seconds. When it hits red, when you get to red, in 5, goes to red, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then what happens is when you're playing a video, when the video ends, the TriCaster system will take command and it'll automatically transition to whatever's selected on your preview. So watch this. Right now it's going to transition to what? From her to what? To her. That's not what we want. We want to go from her to camera 1. So I'm going to pre-select camera 1 in the preview. What's next? I'm going to get off of DDR1 for a moment. I'm going to take it. It's going to play it. Play the next clip. You see how it's advanced to the next clip? When this clip is done, yellow and 10, coming back to studio 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue the tower. So you can see what happens. It's a couple of things. It automatically comes to whatever was next, which was the camera. It advances the video clips to the next clip so you don't repeat a clip. And you don't have to do anything in the TriCaster to go from a video back to a camera, for example. Let's talk about putting a title in. Let's use Joe here instead. We'll call him Joe. So Joe's selected here, his clip. I'm going to transition using auto. I could do it here, but everything's going to be done down here. I'm not going to use the sheep anymore because they're getting pretty annoying. I'm going to use this funky effect here. Whatever's highlighted in blue is the transition that's being chosen at the moment. You can change these out at any time. I'm going to transition now from camera 1 to Joe. There we go. And Joe plays. Plays. Again, we're looking at the counter down here. We can't see the counter, but Joe is done in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to put Joe back online. I want to pause Joe. I can pause him. If I'm on DDR1 here, I can just stop it. Okay, so these controls you select which one of these tabs you want to control with these controls. You can play it, you can stop it, you can go to the end. Okay, so that's what these do. Delegates to the source. Now, what I want to do is put a title in. So to do that, I have to set the switcher up. How do I do that? Titles are added through what's called the downstream key. The downstream key is the very last part of the switcher that overlays over top of everything before it. So if you have a person against a green screen, you cut the green screen out, and then you put a title in. The title goes over the person and the green wall, background, whatever you put in there. It goes over everything before it. Downstream key. The key is downstream from everything else in the switcher. So before it's ready to go, I have to go to this utility bus here, and I have to say, what's my source for that key? Well, if I do a graphics key, my graphics is this photo that we've selected. We don't want it to be that. We want it to be the title down here in our buffer. So I have to select buffer as my source for my downstream key. And then over here on the right, I've got two keys. One says downstream key 1 take, which how would that come in? Cut in. It cuts in. Downstream key auto would affect in. It would transition in. And it has a different set of transitions I'll show you in a second. But let's just watch the screen. Let's play good old Joe here. We'll just go to here. I'm going to just cut it in. Cut it in. There's Joe. Ready to lose it? Lose it. So that's how you put a title in. The source is the buffer. You must select it up here on your utility bus and use your downstream key. There's a dissolve in now. And you can see over here, downstream key 1, there's the transition that's actually going to be used for either downstream key 1 or downstream key 2. There's two keyers in this. Likely you're going to use one most of the time unless you had name titles and say you're doing sports and you had a scoreboard up on the screen. You might put the scoreboard on one downstream keyer and name fonts and stuff on the second one. So it's deciding what you want to see. So how do I change the transition on downstream key 1? It says fade, which is, and I can just go here and I can say, okay, let's pick something funky. I don't know what this is going to look like. It's going to be ugly. But it changed it to whatever I clicked on there. So now if I play good old Joe, let's go to black. Let's go back to Joe on my clip. DDR1. Ready title. The transition in this time. Oof, flies it in. Ready to lose it? Fly it out. I could fly it in and cut it out, or cut it in and fly it out. Depending if you want to do a take or a transition. Usually keep things simple. Like that title transition is pretty busy unless you're doing kind of a fun, funky show. Less is more, generally speaking. So there's your 5 animated buffers, which you can put titles in. Generally speaking, I think you're going to find that this one buffer is going to be enough. And again, you can edit the style of the font and all that stuff up here. The blue you can't edit, that's a template, but you can edit the text. So there's this thing called FTB up here, fade to black. It's also a button down here in the bottom right, fade to black. Stay away from that for the most part. What that would do is, if you had multi-layers of video, you had to quickly get to just a black screen, you could push it. But generally I found in the past students get into trouble with that. Just use, if you're going to use black, just cut the black. But the problem, of course, is if you have a title in there and you want to go to black, you have to take them both at the same time. Okay? But you can do it through fade to black. I generally say stay away from it until you're familiar with the system because it'll get you in trouble. Oh, they've got 8 zoom rates on this. That's nice. Okay, so let's look at Josephine here. Okay? Here she is. We're going to put her in front of, ooh, that's going to look ugly. Let's go to graphics, because that's too busy. Let's add another graphic. Let's put her, again, these are new tech graphics we're in here. Ooh. Ooh.
Just go back. There was like a Chicago or something. Bottom left there.
Yeah, Chicago Town.
It's not
These ones?
pretty. I mean, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to remove this so I don't make a mistake. Remove that fancy one. So I want to cut the green out of here. It's called a chroma key. I want to cut this green out and replace it with this city shot. Now the lighting is not going to really work because it's a dark nighttime scene, but that's not the point right now. But the point is, how do we do that? Well, first what we have to do is get a clean cutout of the camera. And I can put the camera on program. Sorry. Yeah, let's use the videotape because it's going to be easier. So we'll use this. We could use the live camera, which has green, but let's use her. Let's cut her. Okay, so how do we do that? We have to now move out of this background transition area, which is just programmed to preview, cuts or dissolves. We need to move into what's called the mix effects. And this is just like industry, it's called mix effects. Mix effects is where you can preset or pre-build effects that you're going to use in your show, so that you don't have to try to build them as you go. Shows are too busy and you'll just get messed up. So you pre-build this stuff. And if you look here, ME1, 2, 3, and 4, those correspond to mix effects. You've got 4 different effects you could set up. Now, this is DDR1. So I'm going to use ME1 because 1 and 1 makes sense to me in my brain. If I made DDR1 show up as mix effects 3, everyone's going to get confused. So try to keep, if it's camera 1, use ME1. If it's camera 2, use ME2. So DDR1, I'm going to use ME1. I've just made it live, but you notice you didn't see anything happen. Because now I have to go to this tab here. And this is the one where it gets hidden and people forget it's there. This is where you now reveal a whole nother layer up here of your switcher. Okay? It's very powerful up here. So my question now is, this bus up here is on top of, just if you're doing Photoshop, on top of this layer or this bus here. So this is what's on top, and this is what's in behind. So what should be on top, do you think?
Josephine should be on.
Right, Josephine on DDR1 should be on top of the graphic source, which is this. And that's how we've got this set up. So we're good to go. However, you see nothing's happening. That's because we now need to go into that source, DDR, and we need to go to what's called live mat. Now you can have a live mat for DDRs, you can have a live mat for any of your sources. And live mat means chroma key. Mat is a cutout, just like chroma key. Chroma key is a TV industry name. So you're gonna go to the gear, and you're gonna open up your settings area here. You're gonna go to live mat. And now you look, you've got a color picker here. This color picker says, what color do you want to cut out? You can see we do have variations in the green here, but this is a very powerful system. It should be able to handle that, okay? And then we have other adjustments that we can adjust. So let's go to the color picker, click on it. hold it. I usually take a darker shade of the color. I find that usually does better. And somewhere near your subject usually is helpful. So I'm going to pick that. And hey, look, she's now magically in front of that background. But look up here. You can see there's noise, right? This grayness here. That means some of the transparency of the key is not fully done. So now I go to my tolerance and I adjust that. And the reason I'm seeing black around the city is because if you look at my original graphic down here, it has black. So she looks pretty good there. So that's called chroma key. Again, you go to the mix effects. You decide on which ME you want to work on based on the camera number, source number. You have whatever's going to be cut out on top, whatever's going to be